So with the release of Season 3, Chapter 5, it's pretty much confirmed that we aren't getting any from Watchdog Rank ID, even though my boy deserves better, but I digress. But now there's something I want to talk about. This has been quite a big discussion I've seen some people partake in, and that is, why is there so much charge in the game? And I think the answer is pretty simple, to be honest. It's because Skill 1 is weak. Intentionally. This is because of how the game is balanced in Limbus. Each character has 6 skills in total, 3 skill 1, 2 skill 2 and 1 skill 3. Given that skill 3 is a stronger skill, it's rarer, and skill 1 is weaker, so it's more common. Skill 2 is simply the more average skill, not too strong, but not too weak either. Of course, there are exceptions, where skill 2 is somehow stronger and more useful than skill 3. Skill 1 is meant to be a way to balance your sinner damage, so you won't do Ooga Booga damage and just burst through all the content in the game with skill 3. And to be able to use skill 3 more than once, you will have to use all of the sinner skill in the pool to go on to the next skill rotation, so you are forced to use the weaker skill 1 3 times until you can have the chance to use skill 3 again. Back to the topic. Skill 1 is weak, and no one likes skill 1, simply because why would you want to use the weaker skill when you can use the stronger skill? But we can make it more useful to make it more desirable to use. For that, I'm going back to Library of Runa for some example. What I have here is a pretty normal deck with no strong gimmick. Emphasis on no strong gimmick. Most of you will have your no strong gimmick deck differently than mine, but even then, generally, in this deck, you will have lower cost page for drawing additional page and or light regeneration, medium cost page with various effect and buff, and high cost page for damage and stronger utility. As you can see from the example deck that even with weaker die in general, lower cost page are still useful to the player because it regens a light or draw page, and it costs less light to use than stronger card. But what about a deck with a strong gimmick? Then this here is an example of smoke gimmick deck. And while it still has low cost page that do light restore and draw page, some of the cards don't do that, but instead it strengthen the gimmick by either doing something to empower that gimmick or use the gimmick to strengthen itself. Now going back to Limbus company, the problem now is that the game has become a lot simpler than Runa, so now there is no light to restore or page to draw, so skill 1 generally don't offer anything useful. PM solved this problem for now by just pumping out a lot of charge ID, which actually gives skill 1 and skill 2 a use by providing the ID with charge, but now there are simply too many charge ID and egos in the game. So I also have to point out that at least PM seems to try and make S1 more useful generally by giving S1 more power by using some gimmick to strengthen itself, much like the Smoke Smash card I showed back in the example Ruina Smoke deck. Like Uptype 4W Corp Dawn, where she not only can charge on skill 1, but skill 1 also benefits from having charge by getting plus 2 coin power if she has 5 or more charge. And this approach of skill 1 being the gimmick empowering skill and being empowered by gimmick can also help making other ID skill 1 better in general. But now with charge ID we have established the dynamic that S1 and S2 is useful because it's charged up S3, which is the most powerful skill. But what about the dynamic between S1 and S2 themselves, now that both of them serve the same function, but S2 having more clash power and able to do more damage? In the case with Uptype 4W Corp Dawn, where S2 is just clearly superior to S1 in every way possible, there's nothing we can do. But if we look at another ID who was released more recently, we will be able to see a better dynamic between all 3 skills. I said Regret Lobotomy Corp Fast and Hook Hong Lu as an example. For Regret Lab Corp Fast, her S1 acts as a fuel for both her S2 and S3. S2 acts as a temporary damaging skill, which can maintain her tremor stack by regaining the stack that is spent to empower itself, while also doing good enough damage until you can use S1 again to continue stacking for S3, where you can finally use as a finisher or busting tremor stack for big damage. For Hook Hong Lu case, both of his S1 and S2 can be used to stack bleed for his S3, even though it doesn't benefit much from bleed stacking. But his S1 can be empowered by having 2 haste, which you can easily get by using S2, or just use the defense skill, while his S2 empower condition can be easily triggered by RNG due to his high speed stat. So for now, Charge ID is simply the easiest way PM know how to solve this problem until they can think up more unique way to make S1 and S2 generally more useful, or some other gimmick that give purpose to S1 and S2. Or they can make another discard ID which forgo S1 entirely. This is also why the discarding skill by using defense skill generation was so strong back then before it was patched, and why discard skill ID like Mola Artist and DS Erodi are not considered to be very strong, because they can do consistently high damage and you can go to the next skill rotation within 3 or 4 turns by using mostly only their skill 2 and skill 3. It was also a topic that I have tackled in the past before they have even announced any discard skill ID, but that's a different topic.